Welcome to today's edition of Soul Nutrition, where we discuss the various ways of nourishing our souls. I'm your host, author, speaker, and retreat leader, Reina Rose. I'm broadcasting today from beautiful San Clemente, California, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you a very special guest, Sean Kappauf. He is the founder and president of ATTA Time, a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to bringing clean, safe drinking water to communities throughout the globe. Sean, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I love it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So when I think about water and physical nutrition, I think about how a human can live for, over 3 weeks without food?
Yeah, maybe longer.
Yeah, a long time without food.
Yeah.
But it's days, it's barely a week without water.
About 3 days, yeah.
3 days.
Yeah.
Right. So when I looked on the ATTA Time website, some of those statistics were staggering, that 84 million people worldwide don't have access.
Over 700 million now.
700
million, yeah.
Okay, I was looking at 844.
844, yeah. It's anywhere between, it depends on who's giving the report.
Okay.
A lot of people don't have access to clean and safe drinking water.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah, and then there was a statistic, I think it's even worse though than what I read. I read that every 2 minutes a child dies from preventable diseases related to drinking dirty water.
Yeah, about every 90 seconds a child 5 and under will die from water-related illnesses. It's insane. Imagine it this way. You look at a jumbo jet plane, and imagine that jumbo jet plane filled with children 5 and under, and that plane crashing every 10 hours.
Wow.
I mean, we just had the Boeing crisis, right, with the airplanes. One crashed, and then another one crashed a few days, or I don't know how long it was, but it was pretty, consistent. And the whole world was up in arms.
Right.
And imagine it being that, like how many more times are those planes going to crash until we all say, wait a second, we got to fix this.
And that's every 10 minutes would be the equivalent?
Every 10 hours.
Every 10 hours.
Every 10 hours, a jumbo jet plane filled with children 5 and under. That's what the world water crisis is like for children.
So more than twice a day, it'd be jumbo jets
going
down.
Nonstop. Kids are dying all over the world from water-related illness. More than malaria, more than AIDS, more than war combined. Dirty water, namely diarrhea.
Right.
Malnutrition is how they're dying.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's so sad. And so that's why a large majority of the work that we're doing is so that these children can see, so they can grow up and have drinkable water.
Yeah. That's incredible. Would you tell our viewers a little bit more about your history and how you came to get this personal story involved that caused you to create an organization that brings clean, safe drinking water around the world?
Yeah. I don't know anything about water. Well, I didn't. Now I kind of do, but I didn't. It wasn't like I, just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to do this. But let's see here. I am a pastor. I worked at a church up in Costa Mesa in California for quite a while. And there comes a point where if you're not caring for your soul, if you don't have that kind of soul care that exists, especially as a pastor, because you're always giving out and doing things and doing things for God, but I realized I wasn't doing it with Him, kind of thing, that dynamic.
Right.
And I remember I was in a meeting with this couple, and they were telling me some pretty harsh things in their life, and I just remember thinking the whole time, I just want to leave. I don't want to be here. When can I pray so that I can go? Horrible, right?
Yeah.
I think of a criteria of things that you should have when you want to become a pastor. It's I love God, and I should care about others. And the second one wasn't quite there. I didn't care anymore, and I'm like, that's not good. Should I quit my job? Should I stop being a pastor? What's happening? So I went home and did some self-reflection of okay, where have I gone wrong? Why do I feel this way? And I just felt like God responding and saying, Sean, you need to take care of yourself. Sean, you need to make things personal again. Because it's been so impersonal. I've just been doing stuff.
Right.
But not paying attention to myself. And so I'm like, okay, well, what do I care about? What's personal to me? Well, I love surfing. I'm like, could do with that. Surf more, that would be fantastic.
Inner peace.
But honestly, like after this meeting, I'm going surfing because that's part of my soul care. It's like I need that. I need God's creation to be moving through me.
Right.
So that was one thing. Coffee's another thing. And so a lot of times I'll have meetings with people around coffee because I like coffee. And then the third thing and the biggest thing that showed up for me when I was doing this self-reflection with God was that I love kids. I love them. I mean, the moment like one walks into a room, it's just like the energy, everything about them lights up the whole space. You know, you can have a bunch of grumpy, older people. We could be bickering about who knows what, about politics or religion or something. And then a kid shows up and something in like the inner child inside of me is like, let's have some fun.
Right.
Let's go play. What are we doing right now? I don't care about what we're talking about over here. Let's just enjoy the present moment. And I'm like, okay, that's it. I'll do something, maybe, you know, put my focus towards something with children. And I don't know what that would be. And so for whatever reason, I don't know why I did this. I still don't know why I've done this, why I did this, is I decided to Google on my smartphone, what are children dying from around the world? I thought maybe if I can figure out what kids are dying from, maybe I can be a part of some kind of solution in helping children. I don't know why I didn't say like, you know, whatever. There's all kinds of issues with children, but for whatever reason I typed in, what are kids dying from? And water-related illnesses was the number one factor. Children, 5 and under. And when I found out that kids are dying from diarrhea, like what? Like diarrhea? Seriously? Like
right.
That's what they're dying from? I'm like, and they just need clean water? Never in my life have I thought about the water that I drank. Never have I once questioned it. Like, yeah, some people have, you know, said like, you know, there's fluoride in our water, the communists are going to take us over, or whatever. And maybe so, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's been conspiracy theory, not scientific fact about the water I'm drinking. It's just been like, yeah, I trust it. But here, the majority of the world doesn't. And it just blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. And so I just decided in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bring clean water to kids. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't even know who. I live in Orange County. I don't know anyone suffering from water-related illnesses. We have some of the best water treatment facilities in the world here in Orange County. And I don't know anyone that suffers from it, but I'm going to find someone and it'll happen. But I'm not going to force it. I decided, you know what, God, if this is you, if you're doing this, you make it happen. I have this desire in my heart, and if that's in line with what you want for me, then let's see what goes. And so I remember I walked downstairs at my apartment, and I looked on the fridge, and there was this little picture of Brian, and he's a sponsor kid that my wife and I sponsor through another organization. And it gives him basic education, I think, and some clothing and healthcare and stuff like that. And I didn't even know anything about him, to be honest. My wife's thing. It was her deal.
Okay.
And I think my only contribution to that whole sponsorship was, how much is it?
Right. Okay, we can do that.
Super insensitive, like $35, whatever. You know, that kind of thing.
But you hadn't been there yet.
I hadn't been there. I didn't know him. I didn't know anything about it. But I remember looking on that magnet, and then I remember thinking, like, children and helping, and like, I looked at him like, I'm going to go meet Brian. And so I went and talked to our missions pastor at my church and said, hey, when are you going down to El Salvador next? Because that's where we sponsored our kid. And he said, we're going to go in August. And I was the youth pastor at the time. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just bring some of our students. We'll go down to El Salvador, and then I'll do a day where I can visit Brian. And so fast forward to that moment, I'm in El Salvador. I'm in this beautiful little community, and there's like this nice dirt road going up the hill, and bunch of homes and this church in the middle of it, and they have like this little center where the kids are playing. It's like a daycare kind of thing. The kids are running around. There's probably a couple hundred kids like running around laughing, and I'm just like hanging out, typical gringo, like totally not blending in. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I hear this, Sean. And I'm like, who's Sean? I'm like, I hear this, Sean. And I look to the right, and it's the little kid on my magnet. It's Brian running down the hill. There's like a little dirt cloud.
You knew who you were.
He knew who I was. He was yelling, Sean, which is Sean.
Right.
When he's like, that's how he pronounced it. And I'm like, what? And he like grabbed my leg, and he looked up at me and squeezed my leg. And I was like, oh, all that like compassion fatigue, all that indifference, all that stuff inside me that was dead just was like, God like shocked it in me.
Wow.
And just the love came back, and I was like, what is this?
Wow.
And like, I felt like my own kid, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like walking around, he's showing me his house, he's showing me, he has a picture of my wife and I in his room, and I'm like, how did you get that? And there's like letters we've written, and it's signed Sean and Kelsey, and I'm like, I didn't write them letters? It's all from my wife. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But it was really neat how much the letters mattered.
Yes.
How much the pictures mattered.
Absolutely.
It was so personal to him and to now me. And I just remember, like, this kid's the coolest kid ever. It was so awesome. And we're walking around, and I remember talking to his mom, like, so we're donating to you guys. How is that going? Is it working? She said, yes, thank you so much. The money is working. He's doing so well in school, and it's very, very helpful for us. We're really appreciative of all the support. I said, that's awesome. I said, what about his health? How is his health? Like, what's going on? And she said, actually, he's sick. And I'm like, what do you mean he's sick? Well, he has worms. I said, worms? From what? She's like, from our drinking water. And it was in that moment that I just felt like God saying, Sean, take care of your child.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. I'm like, okay, this is my child. I need to take care of him. And that was the starting point of going down this pathway. My intent was to get Brian clean water. But where God intended it to go was a whole other path as well. Not just Brian, but other communities and other cities and other countries and other locations that I had not 1 second. I didn't want to run a nonprofit. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to get Brian clean water. I didn't even think about that, but it just slowly progressed as God was leading us towards where we are today. That's kind of how it started.
Wow,
Personally.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before the broadcast.
Uh-huh.
I actually grew up in a third world country where we didn't have clean water.
Yeah.
And we were discussing what is the difference between we had a tap, so we weren't getting it from an open source like a mud puddle or anything. We had a tap, but it was still not safe. We had to boil it. And so tell us, what is the benefit of using these? Tell us about the device too, and what's the difference between using the device and boiling your water?
Okay. The difference is everything, really. But so when I found out that Brian was sick, I did research, and I ended up stumbling across this filter that's gravity fed. So you don't need to have any kind of like source of power other than just gravity, which is really helpful when it comes to developing countries. And so what I did is I took this filter and I gave it to a couple of my friends who are engineers, and I said, do some research to see if this is the best thing on the market. And they said, okay. And I trust engineers. They're very meticulous.
Yes.
You know, they're really straightforward, and they did a bunch of research, and yeah, they said, you know what, as far as we know, this is the best thing on the market. I'm like, great. It's a company based in Tampa Bay, or actually Safety Harbor, but in Florida, and they manufacture this filter that's made by a company called Sawyer. And basically the difference between boiling your water and filtering it, at least filtering it with this specific filter. There are other filters on the market. One that's been marketed really well is Life Straw, where you can take a straw and you suck it from the river or whatever, and people drink that. That takes out 90% of the bacteria, not 100. So you're not guaranteeing that you're going to get, some
is
kind
that a similar result to boiling, 90%?
You know, boiling all depends on how hot it is and how long you boil it for. And that's the hard part, is because it's hard to scale that. Depends on like this kind of, how many sticks did you get? What kind of bowl is it? What's in that water? And when you place it on there, how long, it has to be at a certain temperature, and it has to be there for a certain amount of time, and then you cool it off. Now, usually in boiling areas where people have been boiling their water, they've been boiling their water for who knows how long, generations and generations. And so they've created these formulas that they, know that, I'm going to get this amount of sticks, put this pot over here, and I boil it for this amount of time, and then I give it to our, by trial and error, basically. And that's kind of how
very labor intensive.
Oh
going
my
out and
gosh.
finding the sticks, boiling it, cooling it down.
Crazy labor intensive. We've been doing this for a while now, and when we do trips, we go out and check other places that we've distributed, and we ask them, what are the benefits, and is there anything going wrong? So we want to make sure that what we're giving is still working. We're not just here to give something to someone and leave. So we were in Colombia a few months ago, and I was asking this. She's basically a grandma. She's like the matriarch of her family, and I was asking her, I'm like, so what did you do before you had the filter? She's like, well, I would hike for 2 miles to the water source. I'd go to the water source, scoop it up in like whatever, a container of some sort. I'd bring it back, and then I'd go out into the jungle and I'd find sticks. And then I put the sticks under there, boil the water, cool it, serve it to my kids. And I said, what was the typical time between that process? She says anywhere between 3 to 5 hours. Doing that.
Every day?
Every single day.
Wow.
And I'm like, for how long? She's like, as long as I can remember. And I'm like, how long here? She's like, 18 years, because that's how long we've been here. And I'm like, now that you have the filter, which literally you take the dirty water, you put it into this 5-gallon bucket, you drop the hose, the dirty water goes through the hose, through the filter, and out comes clean drinking water. Instantly. 100% of all the bacteria gone. And that filter will last you 20 plus years. So It's not just like a one-time deal. It'll last you a long time.
Right.
And we came back. We probably gave it to her, I don't know how long ago, but a while back. And I said, now that you have the filter and you don't have to, it doesn't take you 5 hours to get clean water. Like, what do you do with your time? And she's like, I sleep.
That's what I would do.
Right? That's fantastic. And so it's like the difference between boiling it and filtering it with this filter in particular is everything. It's time. It's more like I pay extra to go on like the freeways in California. Oh, horrible. You know what it's like. The 405 is the worst thing ever. The 5 freeway gets so jam-packed. I pay a ridiculous amount of extra money just to go on the toll road because I want to have more time with my kids. When my kids are older, and out of college, I'll probably take the freeway and won't care. But I want to see them and I want to hang out with them, so I take the freeway to cut the time so I'm not wasting my time just sitting in a parking lot, right? Imagine like 5 hours of their days of time not with their kids, for their kids,
right?
But not with their kids. 5 hours of that intentional time during the day where they could be sitting and she could be loving them in another way.
Right, and getting extra sleep,
getting
being
extra
more
sleep,
patient for them.
The whole thing, it's insane.
Even
how
the blue
much it helps.
zones, sleep is one of the factors to long life. So not only are they getting clean drinking water to prevent preventable diseases, but a little extra sleep will lengthen their life as well.
100%. There's so much positivity that comes from gaining access to clean drinking water. Just the mindset of not having to worry.
Right.
So you're going from a place of surviving to thriving. You're on that pathway of you're not trying to just live for today, but rather you're like, I'm okay here. I can then creativity shows up, entrepreneurship shows up, all kinds of other things that free your brain space to do things. It's insane.
I just wrote a section on a book on that, and it's called Natural and Organic Healing, and I wrote a section on restorative downtime.
Yes.
And actually, when you can take restorative downtime, it makes you more effective, more creative in every other area.
Oh,
so coming up with solutions to bring in more income for the family, or coming up with new ideas, or just being able to thrive and enjoy your family rather than tolerate them.
Yes.
When you take that rest, it leads to benefits in all areas of your life.
Oh, yeah. And I really believe that God has created us to work from rest, not to rest. We should be saying, thank God it's Monday because I'm ready. Yeah. Rather, we've been saying, thank God it's Friday, and we're just like exhausted.
And then we exhaust ourselves more all weekend.
5-hour energies or coffee, which I love coffee, don't get me wrong, but we are human beings, not human doings.
Absolutely.
And God has wired us to work from it. That's why you see in the beginning of Genesis 1, it says an evening and then morning the first day, evening the morning the second day, evening the morning the third day. Why start with evening? Because the start of our day is when we begin to rest our head on our pillow. That's the beginning of our day because we work from it, not for it or to it.
And I'm thinking about your story, how when you were, doing things other than what you're doing now, what you're passionate about, what really comes from your soul, you weren't working from a place of resting in God.
Exactly.
And when you're resting in your purpose, in God, He's pushing that momentum that it's like riding that wave when you're surfing because it's an enjoyable, passionate thing rather than you're trying to work up some compassion for people in your office.
Yeah, it's like I gotta get more kids clean water. I hate it. Like, no, it's just something that just flows. It just I'm in that flow. I'm in that rhythm. I'm in whatever the Spirit of God is like, how it's working. And people ask me like, well, how did you get into these other countries? And I'm like, they came to me.
Wow. I
didn't do anything. They showed up and came to me. And they're like, well, how? And I'm like, well, I can tell you, like, each country that we're in, I can tell you how.
Is it the same organization that you're sponsoring through, or
no? People just find out what I'm doing, and they call me.
That's incredible.
I know. That's how I know it's working.
And that's working for the rest.
I'm not having to like go out there and knock on doors and try to bridge partnerships with other people to do more work. The work is like, the need is so massive, and I say yes a lot, and sometimes that's not really a good thing, but I'm like, more kids need it. We got to make it happen. But at the end of the day, like, that's how I know that this has been something that God's been, I don't know. I think he always approves of me, no matter what I'm doing. It's like, I think that he like loves me, but I see God's hand in it because I'm not trying to coerce it. I'm not trying to, not trying to force it. It's just happening. And I think there'll come a time where it doesn't happen anymore. And then that's when I move on to whatever else God has for me.
I agree. I feel like when we're kind of missing the mark, it's tough.
Yeah.
And when we just adjust course a little bit, God just makes things flow and the right people come. And
yeah, they show up and, and there's moments where like I'll lose a big donor and I think in my head or my ego gets shot. I'm just like, oh no, we're dying. And then I'm like, but wait, how did this begin with, this isn't, and then I'm like, I'm not going to worry about that. Why do I need to worry about that? God's got this. It's okay. And then something happens and someone else shows up and takes that place or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm present with God and myself. And I look at myself in the mirror every day and go, okay, here we go. We got this. Let's do this. And we just God just makes things happen.
Right. And you're able to take the time just like that lady and have your self-care, show up to your kids in a way that is...
Try to. I'm not always the best. But yes, that's the idea. That's
great.
Yeah.
So the soul-nourishing part about this whole epidemic, it's soul-crushing to think of the gravity of the situation that's happening.
It's massive.
It's just heart-wrenching. But the soul-nourishing part of it is that it's really easy for someone like me, someone like our audience, to get involved with the company like one at a time.
Yes.
And be able to be God's hands and feet here on the earth.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing that feeds your soul more. There's nothing you could do for yourself that would feed your soul more than helping another person, than saving lives of people. By something as small as donating $25 a month to as big as, partnering at the $100,000 level, wherever people are at, they can come alongside and become a part of this. But there's so many different ways people can get involved.
Yeah.
As I was reading on your site, there's just a multitude of ways. If you could tell us a few of those ways that people could get involved.
Yeah. Well, first off, our name, One at a Time, exists because that's how we make change. Yes. Mother Teresa put it this way, and she said that if you can't feed 100, then just feed one. And I love that. And I'm like, that's it. Like, with just one at a time. There's a passage, a verse in Micah 6:8 that he says, what does God require of us, O man, but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God? And I really believe that the walking humbly part means just taking it one step at a time. So we see this massive number. You hear these statistics, 700, 800 million people.
Right.
Jumbo jet filled with children crashing. Imagine it like that. And every 90 seconds or whatever it may be that our kids are dying from, it's like, oh my goodness, what can I do? And what I and my team have been working on is creating a pathway for us to make a massive impact in the life of someone, at the same time, not breaking our bank. Yes. So the big issue with a lot of us, and even for myself, is like, I want to help other people thrive, but I feel like what I can contribute isn't enough to make an impact. But what we've done here is like, for example, if you give $25 a month, that will provide 5 families access to clean drinking water every year.
Wow.
And each family that receives that filter, that'll last them 20 plus years of clean water, potentially. The filter just keeps going. Our end is to make sure that we can see that longevity. So we create sustainability, we create follow-up, we create these kinds of things where we're not just, and we're not even giving it. We train local leaders and they distribute it.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it's not even us. Like when we show up in country, that people don't know us. This is the leadership does it, whether that's the government or a church or someone that has a leadership potential there. We go inside and we partner with them. We train them and we link up with them, and then they go out all the time because they're the locals and they should be the heroes.
Yes.
In particular, I love it when the church does it because then they're able to really love their neighbor well. And there's been a lot of great things that have come of that when it comes to lack of persecution and all that stuff. But
right, and greater trust when it's their own countrymen bringing this.
Exactly. And that's the hope, is to not, like, it's not for us to be the heroes. No. Like, we have something here in the States, and we're going to go help others with it. And by that, how we do that is empowering local leaders with it. And so when you give $25 a month, you're going to be giving some family access to clean drinking water for the next 5
families,
years.
Right?
5 families. I mean, it's crazy. It's not that much. It's less than $1 a day, and you're going to really make a massive impact in the lives of those who need it. Now, you know, some people are like, "Oh, I can do that," and other people are like, "Well, I want to do more." Like, you can do more.
Mm-hmm.
An average village is about 50 families. That's $2,500. You're going to give a whole village access to clean drinking water.
For $2,500.
I just had a donor do that. We do work in Fiji, and which is kind of weird because Fiji's marketing has been fantastic. Okay,
Right.
When you think of Fiji, what do you think? You think clean water, beautiful islands, vacation, right?
Right.
And all.
So you go into Fiji water.
Yeah.
So
Typically, when you think of the word Fiji, and I tell people, "Oh yeah, we work in Fiji," they go, "Oh, that must be nice." Like, it's nice. They think clean water. They think beautiful islands.
right, I love Fiji water.
And and it's fantastic. But here's the thing: Fiji's #1 export is Fiji water. Yet their people, many of them, don't have access to clean drinking water.
Oh my goodness!
Right. So our mission is to help those who need access to clean drinking water to get it. And so we've been working with the health inspectors of the island, so with the government. And a typical village is about 50 families in Fiji. And $2,500 covers that entire village, plus the schools.
Wow.
And there are little villages in all these islands, and so we go in there, and it's $2,500, and it gives clean water to everyone. Now, a lot of times when we think about water, we think about digging wells.
Mm-hmm.
Well digging, which wells can be anywhere between $5,000 to $15,000, maybe more. Wells don't guarantee clean water. It guarantees access to it. So when people ask me, what about wells? And wells are fantastic and they're fine, and sometimes we've dug them. But for the majority, they already have access to it. We're just going to filter it. And the filtering process is so cheap. It's $50. $50 for one filter. Wow. $50, and that'll give a family access to
20 years.
20 years. $50. That's nothing. And so it's crazy.
Divide that over 20 years, it's just pennies.
It's pennies. It's amazing. And so that's what I'm saying, like, we all feel like we don't have enough to give, or maybe some of us feel that way, at least I do, that I want to help other people thrive, but I don't have enough. But $50, and that'll last them for 20 plus years?
Right.
Sign me up. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. And so that's what we've been doing, and we've noticed that. And so when we talk with people, we have people signing up, even kids. They save their money, and they give $50, and a kid has now given another kid clean water.
That's incredible.
It's so cool.
For their entire youth to grow up and a little bit longer.
Yeah, just like we do here in the States for many of us. They now have it too in whatever country we're serving at that time. And it's really, really amazing. And there's different other ways you can get involved. I mean, you can campaign. You can campaign your birthday online, where it's your birthday,
I've seen that.
Instead of people giving gifts, you donate to our organization. And you can campaign anything. Like you want to, I'm going to shave my head until I make $2,000. I'll shave my head, or whatever it is. You can do fun stuff, marathons, running, you name it. You can do it. So you can do campaigns. You can host events. You can do a thing called a filter build event, which is really fun. We have one coming up at a church in December. And basically, a filter build event is you contact us and you tell us the date in which you want to have your event. And it could be a corporate function, so like businesses, or it could be a church function, and you do it on a weekend service or during the week. And essentially, what happens is, you say, we want to give 100 families access to clean drinking water. We want to provide 100 filters. We ship them in all the parts to the location. We then come out, either if they fly us out, or if it's local, we go there, and we do a whole half day basically demonstration of what we're doing in the world water crisis, the reality of it, and then we have tables lined up, and everyone kind of goes in line, and they build these filters together, and they get to be a part of the experience. And so, if you're a CEO or if you're a senior pastor and you're watching this is a huge, awesome tool to use to learn about the water crisis, and for your staff morale to experience being a part of something bigger than themselves, bigger than the church, bigger than your business, so you're making a global impact. And then when that happens, inside this bag that you put all the pieces in, when you're done, there's a sticker and a line in the middle, and on top you write to the family who's receiving it. And then we get it translated in whatever language it may be. And then we put that sticker on the bucket. So when the family receives it, they're not just receiving a filter, but they also see a personal connection to people who have assembled it here in the States.
Right.
Someone else out there is thinking about them, even though they don't know them. It's just
Absolutely.
another piece. And that event has been so incredible and been so awesome to watch, because for some of us, we're like, maybe I don't have the money, maybe I don't have this, but I know my boss might be interested in this, or or the church might be interested in this, and we've done them, and they've been so awesome, and connecting people together, uniting people together to bring clean water to others around the world.
Right.
So there's lots of different ways that you get involved. There's lots of other parts of doing it, but ultimately giving on a monthly basis is huge, and the filter build events have been the most successful.
Yeah.
So those are two really big points.
And I know sometimes you start at something like a filter build event.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago I was a teenager, and I started writing the Christmas cards to the kids in Russia and doing the little ornaments,
Yeah.
And I thought as a teenager, one day when I have time and money, I'll go to Russia and I'll sponsor an orphan.
Yeah.
And, it was another 12, 15 years before I would get to the point where I had time and money to go to Russia and sponsor orphans. Yeah, I go every year now, for the last 5-6 years.
Love it.
And then of course you meet more, you got to sponsor them too, and you just fall in love with the community, and you're able to do so much more.
Yes.
But it starts sometimes with just writing that letter, or just sending that Christmas ornament, or building the filter.
Yeah, it starts there.
And that's where you get the passion to bring in companies and bring in those larger donors that. I mean, I saw some donors on your site, and you can donate hundreds of thousands if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, that would, an entire country, villages and villages worth of.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And the impact, $100,000, the impact that does is massive. We're talking provinces upon provinces upon provinces.
Right.
Where it's not just a village. You're covering a whole section of that country.
Right. And that can all start from, something as simple as building a filter that costs you $50 a piece, and sending it off with that personal message. And it means so much, like you said.
It really does.
The people, they keep the letters. If you send pictures, you will find them in their house when you go to visit them, and not because they know you're coming. It will always be there.
Yeah.
And
it's just another touch point of hope. There's people out there that care about me.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone sees me. I'm in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of nowhere, and someone from the United States has thought and prayed for me.
Absolutely.
That's big.
That was when we went out to the orphanages. They're better now than they were in the 90s.
Right.
But they said, in the 90s, she said, we had no forks, no plates, but worst of all, we had no food. And when we did open it, it was filled with maggots.
Oh.
And she said, when the Americans came, they brought food, they brought toys. Said that most of all, they brought hope to the kids, that someone cared about them.
Yep.
and that they were actually motivated to play again. They were motivated, and she said, more than anything, just come back. You know, just keep writing, just keep in contact.
Exactly.
Because that brings the hope.
And that's, that's a good point that you make, because sometimes you spend a lot of money as well going to all these places. And yes and no. I mean, we have certain ways around it where we get cheaper prices for certain things. But yeah, it is kind of expensive. And it would be easier just to ship the filters to the people. But there's another, the underlying, thread of our organization is relationships.
Right.
Yeah, we're here to provide people clean water. Yeah, we're here to bring, to see other people experience this kind of hope. But ultimately, we're here to connect. Ultimately, we're here to recognize that just as much as you may be materially impoverished, I'm impoverished too.
Yes.
And I need help too. And if we can see each other, not like I'm better than you or you're better than me, but we can see each other in the same playing field, that we're both human beings in this world trying to figure things out and look at each other eye to eye, man, the difference that comes out of that, what God does with that, is beautiful.
Right.
Because we're not just here to go on vacation or, to get our missions fixed, or I don't even know what it is. We're here to build relationships with one another, to link together, and to help make a difference together in what's appropriate and that works for all of us.
Right. Sometimes I've been people say, oh, you're going on a mission trip. And I'm thinking, I guess so, but I'm really going to see my friends
Exactly.
now. It's come to the point where I'm visiting my friends in Russia. They just happen to all be orphans.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so, you develop these relationships that are so strong.
This is my extended family.
Absolutely.
I get missions, I guess, but really it's no, this is my family.
When I showed my sponsored girl, she's in my family section of my phone.
I love it.
And she was just overwhelmed that I include her in that section of my phone.
Oh, really?
Because she includes me that way, but for me to include her.
See, look.
Yeah, that she's, of course, just go to family, and there you are. There's our pictures together.
Oh, that's so good.
And, it's an incredible, and that's what it's about. It's about helping them thrive.
Yep.
But emotionally and relationally is a huge part of that thriving.
A huge part. And that's where the connecting comes in, the face-to-face interaction, which is so much more important than as we can so do on social media or whatever it is. We can still stay connected there too, which is great. Yeah. But the face-to-face interaction, giving them a hug, that kind of thing, it makes a huge difference.
It does.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember, if it's a long way to getting to that face-to-face,
sure,
starting with those little bits means so much to them. Like you said, you didn't even know your wife had written all those letters, and they had them saved.
And that'll, some people can't, they just can't do it, or they don't want to, or they're afraid.
Right.
And that's not a problem. But even just writing that letter, or on that sticker and giving it, whatever it is, just that alone is huge.
Yeah.
Anything other than nothing is good.
Exactly. Right.
Anything, just something, is better than nothing.
Yeah, and I love how one at a time, you go into churches, of course.
Yeah.
And you go into schools as well.
Yep.
And then you go into businesses and help the businesses get involved in something greater than their business.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
About when going into businesses here?
Right, going into a corporation, that seems, the church makes sense, we're helping people. A school even makes sense, you're teaching the youth to help. But, business, corporation, sometimes they're just all about the dollar, you wouldn't think.
And that's the thing, though. It's so the people that I've sat with, that's what they've noticed in their staff, is that they're just there to make money. Right? And granted, yes, of course, it's a business. But the morale of the culture that you're creating, you, as an business owner, you want to see your staff, you want to see the longevity, you want to make sure that you're creating a healthy environment, But a lot of times you're thinking about numbers. You got someone breathing down your neck. You got, you got this fire to put out, this fire to put out. You didn't meet your quota this month, or whatever it is, and you're like, I got to run this whole organization. I don't have time, but I so desire deep within me to allow all of my employees or whoever to thrive.
Yes.
And when we come into a space like that, it's like a huge relief from whoever's running it, because they're finally like, we're doing something good here.
Yeah.
And you get to see the other staff, and they're connecting in a different way than they're normally connecting. They're not connecting through work, or if they have cubicles, whatever it is, they're not, bantering back and forth and that kind of connecting point, but rather they're face to face and they're doing something with their hands. They're doing something good, and they're learning about something that matters.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go home and be like, man, my work is actually really cool. Like, here we are, we do this, that, and the other for the marketplace. And we're all about making profit and making money and being more successful, but we also care about giving back.
Right.
And we're not just all about ourselves. So there are businesses like a lot of mortgage companies and a lot of real estate agents, they also like create percentages. And I just told them, like, I'll give you an X percent on, I'm like, don't do that. Because the moment you sell, whenever you get that $30 million home, trust me, you're going to want to take that percentage back. Just whatever is within your heart and you feel like giving, give that. Mm-hmm. Don't hold yourself to some law that you've made up in your head about what you think you should give. It's not about that. For me, when the organization, what you feel, give that. And some people do that as well. The filter build events, I think, are best if you're like running something, and the morale has been so cool. But even like mortgage brokers and real estate agents, for every sale they give back. And they give back. Sometimes if they're Christians, they give back to their church, obviously, and then they choose another organization. But other people that aren't Christians, they're giving back as well too. And it's so cool because that's a connecting point for people that don't know God. They can come to know God through us.
Right.
And I think that I love it. So we've had a lot of experience and a lot of great experience with people in the marketplace that have partnered with us to help make a difference in those who need access to clean drinking water. It's been amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah. I think about, so many companies have wellness professionals, such as myself, come in. And of course, we teach different techniques for wellness and how to take that downtime. But all the research of giving and how that really creates wellness within our souls, what better wellness program to have than come in and together work on projects that really matter? Yeah,
like actually going to make a difference.
Right.
Like that.
I mean, honestly, I have to say that's more impactful than me coming in and telling you how to, rest.
No,
that's important too.
We're all of it matters.
Yes, all of it matters. But I think that's an incredible piece that I'm going to incorporate in the future, is to bring in something like this.
Yeah, let's do it.
That people can gather around a common purpose and really nourish their soul through helping other people.
Exactly. You look at Jesus is the idea of water, even throughout Scripture, isn't fascinating. But Jesus is at the well, the woman at the well. She's coming to get water in the middle of the day because she's, obviously not well liked in the community. She's seen, maybe as a scandalous woman or whatever. That's why she's down in the middle of the day, and Jesus is there. And he tells her, you're here for, this water, but I am going to tell you right now that I am like living water. And so you're talking about this nourishment of the soul. You're talking about, and Christ is that. He is that nourishment. He is that place when we can center ourselves into the present moment and realize that God is always here, and we connect with him in that space. We can almost feel that sense of like, that spiritual like water, that living water moving within us. In the same respect as you are navigating people to encounter that living water, we can bring clean water too. And actual and so you can combine those two, and it's so cool because we see it happening out in the other countries as pastors are coming in and giving clean water, but also able to love these people in a way that they can encounter this living water, this nourishment to their soul as well.
Right.
This whole body experience, basically. You know, it's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, you're, like you said, going out and helping the developing countries, but you're helping people right here. Yeah. But you're helping people here more than just in the soul. I know that you do disaster relief work with water.
Yes. So we have a little side part of our organization where we do disaster relief. We've done a few disasters in the past. We're in Houston. We did work in the North Shore of Hawaii. There was a massive landslide that cut off road passages. So we brought filters on boats and around some people who got closed off so they can. It's the wettest cut part of the world, I think, something like that. North Shore of Hawaii is really, it rains a lot, so they were able to trap water, but they were afraid of bacteria. So we gave them filters there, and we're doing a different kind of filtration right now that doesn't last as long up in Paradise, California. Okay. So we're doing some work there, testing some things out. But the biggest thing that we did was Puerto Rico. We were able to partner with some Rotarians, which are incredible people. And then we're also able to partner with the Jesuit community, and then Homeland Security, the CDC, and basically the government.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. Basically, God's like, here's everyone that can get stuff done.
Yes.
And done now, and here you go.
That's incredible. That's always my prayer. Just bring the right people, because
I'm telling you,
I don't know what to do.
And again, like how we've always been is we don't, like, people go, are you going to be a part of this disaster? Are you going to be a part of this disaster? Because disasters happen all the time.
Of course.
And my whole thing is, unless we are invited, then we will go. And the reason why that is the way it is because anyone who's done disaster relief work knows that there's always the second hurricane or the second earthquake or the second disaster. Mm-hmm. And that second disaster is all this stuff flooding into that place or that space of aid. And a lot of it's because people's heartstrings, or however you want to say it, are being tugged and strung or whatever. And they're like, I want to go. And then they try to figure out to go, and it just becomes chaotic. Because now they got to house them somewhere in a place that doesn't have a lot of housing. Now they got to feed them. You got to give them water. You know, it's like
in a limited water
situation. It's like, you know what? We will be a part, and we are ready, and we have filters, you know, in stock, ready for disaster relief when it's invited. Because when we're invited, then we feel like, okay, then we'll be welcomed there, and then we can actually do some good work. Other than that, we don't go. Even in any country, we've always been invited in, and that's kind of how we hold it when it comes to disaster relief. So yes, I am proud to say that we've done stuff in the United States. I am not proud to say that we have that issue in the United States, but we do, and that's a whole other subject with water in the United States. But for now, we've done some disaster relief work, and it's been really neat to be able to. Because some people go, "What about the United States?" So I'm like, "Yeah, we are doing some. It's, you know, in these countries. I mean, not in this country, but in this area and whatnot. But typically, we only work with water that is bacteria infested. Okay. The filter takes out all the bacteria. We're not dealing with chemicals. We're not dealing with poisons. We're not dealing with, you know, whatever it may be. We're just dealing with bacteria.
Right. So the situation like Houston where you have flooding, that's bacteria.
Bacteria. Yes, they're on boiling notices.
Right.
And so we come in there and we say, hey, you can use this filter. Don't worry about the boiling notices are there because of bacteria.
Right. And you take 100% of the bacteria.
100% of the bacteria out.
That's incredible.
Yep.
So tell us more about, you have an event coming up, and also about how people can give, the end of the year giving, donations. We talked a little bit about how you can get involved. Yeah. Tell us your website, how to get a hold of you, or how to donate.
Yeah, of course. So if you want to donate, it's at oneatatime.org.
Could you spell that for us?
Yes. It's ONEATTATIME.org. Oneatatime.org. It's basically two T's in the middle.
Right, that makes sense.
We call it ATTA for short. We're not always saying like, we're one at a time, we're one at a time. We just say ATTA for short. You can actually, there's another URL, atta.ngo.
Okay.
A little quicker.
Yes.
But sometimes people get confused with .ngo. So, but that's how you can get connected with us. As you know, that it's November, December, we are doing a Giving Tuesday campaign, but we're also looking for those who want to do year-end giving, to consider us as a viable option to making a difference in the lives of those who need access to clean drinking water. So if you're sitting here and you're watching this and you're thinking, man, I really want to be a part of that, check us out online. You can contact us. You can reach out to us. You're going to see a phone number on there. Call that phone number on our website or send us an email. And we'd love to talk to you more about what we're doing and how you can be a part of uniting with us to bring clean water to those around the world. So yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, for us, November, December are always great months for us as we're, you know, rallying people together, and people are also kind of in that spirit of giving. And we've seen some great outcomes in the past, and we're looking forward to this year as it's already being panned out to be an incredible year-end giving month for us as an organization. And so we're looking forward to more people getting involved. And ultimately, it's like, yeah, the funds are great. And trust me, we obviously need money. Like, there's two sides of the problem.
Of course.
How do we find a solution to the problem, and then how do we fund it, right?
Of course.
How does that work? We found a solution to the problem. Now we need to fund it, and the funding is there. But ultimately, for us, is we want people's hearts to be engaged. And so, if you want to be a part, and for some of you, you're like, you know what, I'm in, I'm going to donate, no big deal. And others of you are like, you know what, I want to be a part, but I want to know a little bit more. We'd love to connect with you. We'd like to connect with everyone we can, because we're not just here for like, give us money. We're here to connect as well. What's God putting a passion in your heart to do? What's your one at a time? Maybe you heard my story and you're thinking like, man, what is that? You know, I've been feeling apathetic. Maybe I have compassion fatigue and I want to make something personal. Reach out to us. And we'd love to sit down with you and to brainstorm, you know, what's God doing in your life and see you make a difference in the world one at a time as well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So go to oneatatime.org
Yep.
or atta.ngo, which is
Governing organization.
To check out more for One at a Time, or ATTA for short.
Yeah.
And think about what is passionate in your heart. What is the one at a time that you can make a difference? Or think about partnering with ATTA to come alongside and help bring an end to this world water epidemic, and let, even if just one more child survives.
Yes.
I mean, we're making a huge difference
Yes.
here. And think about the ways that you could get involved. You know, getting, I know there's also corporate matches. Sometimes companies will match the giving that you do. Get creative. And like Sean said, give them a call, brainstorm how that you could get involved, whether you have the funds or not. There's ways that you can be creative and get involved in these kind of things. And thank you so much for watching today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Soul Nutrition.